They thought he was weak. Then he unleashed the beast. What would you do if everyone saw you as weak, useless, invisible? And one day, you decided to show them the beast you've been hiding inside? Life is full of masks. Some people hide their cruelty behind charming smiles. Others hide their power behind silence. And sometimes, the one everyone sees as the weakest is the one about to become unstoppable. This is the story of Nico, a quiet boy, underestimated, mocked by everyone around him. But what no one knew was that he was about to awaken something no one could control. Get ready. This story will hit you hard. From a very young age, Nico learned how to take up as little space as possible. He always sat in the back of the classroom, spoke softly, never interrupted anyone. He wasn't the type who drew attention, not from the teachers, not from the students. In fact, most people barely remembered he existed. His notebooks were neat, his grades average. Not because he was dumb, but because he'd learned early that standing out could be dangerous. The more invisible he was, the less pain he had to endure. He lived with his grandmother, a sweet old woman who did her best to care for him on a small pension. Nico's parents had died in a car crash when he was just 6. Since then, silence had become his shield. But that same silence became a target. "Hey Nico, did you lose your tongue?" "Watch out, guys, the invisible ninja is here," they'd laugh, and he'd just lower his head, pretending not to hear. But inside, something was growing, a quiet rage he didn't yet have a name for. At school, everyone had a role. The popular kids, the funny ones, the brains, the athletes. And Nico was a nobody, but even nobodies have a breaking point. It started small, as these things usually do: a missing pencil, a locker mysteriously jammed shut. Nico would come to class and find his chair missing. Laughter would echo through the room, but no one ever admitted who did it. Then it escalated. One day, someone stuck gum to the inside of his hoodie. Another time, someone tripped him in the hallway, making his books scatter across the floor. As he scrambled to pick them up, students stepped over him like he was nothing. No one helped. No one even looked. The worst part, the teachers saw it and did nothing. Maybe they thought Nico didn't mind. Maybe they thought he was used to it. Or maybe deep down, they thought he deserved it for being so quiet, so different, so easy to ignore. There were 2 ringleaders, Jason and Troy, football players, loud, charming, the kind of boys adults adored and classmates feared. They had that cruel charisma, the kind that draws people in even as it crushes others. Jason once poured a soda into Nico's backpack just before the bell rang. When Nico opened it during class, everything was soaked: his homework, his lunch, even the old picture of his parents he always carried with him. Troy laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. "Oh, look, poor baby's crying over mommy and daddy." The room went silent for a moment, and then the laughter erupted. Nico didn't cry, not really. His eyes welled up, yes. But something else stirred in that moment, something colder than sadness, sharper than pain, hatred. That was the day he stopped being sad. That was the day the beast inside him took its first breath. It was supposed to be just another day. Nico had learned to expect nothing, to walk through the halls like a ghost. But that Friday, everything changed. The school was holding a talent showcase. Anyone could sign up: music, comedy, dance, even poetry. Nico didn't sign up, of course. He wouldn't dare, but someone else did, under his name. When they called his name over the microphone, the entire auditorium erupted in laughter. "Nico Alvarez, come on up!" He froze in his seat, confused, heart pounding, eyes wide. Was this some kind of joke? It was. Jason and Troy were already grinning from the front row, their phones out, ready to record. They'd submitted Nico's name along with a ridiculous fake talent, interpretive dance. The crowd started chanting, "Nico! Nico! Nico!" And in that moment, something inside him broke. He stood up, slowly. Every step to the stage felt like walking through fire. Laughter echoed, whispers hissed. When he got to the microphone, The spotlight blinded him. The silence that fell over the room was deafening. People leaned in, expecting a train wreck. He said nothing. He stood there, staring out into the sea of mocking faces, and then turned around and walked off the stage. The auditorium exploded with laughter, clapping, shouting. Jason yelled, "Wow, that was deep, bro. What a performance!" Nico didn't cry. Not that time. He walked straight out of the building, past the lockers, past the gym, past everything. And he kept walking. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, and somewhere on the edge of town, in a dusty alley behind an old boxing gym, Nico stopped. He looked at the building. The sound of punches hitting bags echoed from inside. The smell of sweat and sawdust clung to the air. He didn't know why he was there, but his feet wouldn't move. The door opened, and a tall, broad-shouldered man stepped out. He looked Nico up and down. "You lost, kid?" Nico met his eyes. For the first time in a long time, he didn't look away. "No," he said. "I think I just found something." The man's name was Ray, ex-boxer, rough hands, eyes that had seen too many fights. He looked at Nico like he was made of paper, torn but not yet thrown away. "You want to learn how to punch?" he asked skeptically. Nico nodded once, firm, no hesitation. Ray narrowed his eyes. "You got money?" Nico shook his head. "What do you got?" "A reason." That was enough for Ray. He didn't ask questions. He didn't coddle. He put Nico to work. At first it was brutal. His arms felt like rubber, his legs like lead. He couldn't land a proper jab without losing balance. The punching bag hit back harder than he expected. His knuckles bled. His body ached. Every part of him screamed to give up. But Nico didn't. Day after day, after school, in total secrecy, he showed up. Ray gave him keys to the side door and a single rule. You train hard or you don't train at all. Weeks turned into months. The boy who once flinched at shadows started to move like one. Fast, silent, dangerous. His body changed first, then his mind. He was still quiet at school, still sat in the back, still endured the whispers. But now, there was something in his eyes. A cold fire. A quiet storm. At home, his grandmother noticed the bruised knuckles, the tighter muscles, the long nights. But she didn't ask. She just placed a warm plate on the table every night and kissed his forehead a little longer. One evening, after a grueling session, Ray asked, "What are you going to do with all this strength, kid?" Nico wrapped his hands in tape and looked in the mirror. "I'm not going to do anything," he said quietly. "I'm going to wait." And that was the scariest answer of all, because when someone hurt and silent starts waiting, it's not for forgiveness. It's for the perfect moment to strike. When summer ended and school resumed, Nico returned. But he wasn't the same. The hallways hadn't changed. The lockers still creaked. The same faces roamed the corridors. Loud, careless, cruel. But something in the air shifted when Nico walked through those doors. He didn't wear anything flashy. No leather jacket. No shades. Just his old hoodie and jeans. But his posture screamed something different. No more slouching, no more avoiding eye contact. He walked like someone who knew where he was going and knew exactly what he was capable of. People noticed, even if they didn't know why. Some students stopped whispering when he passed. Teachers looked twice, sensing something had changed. But they couldn't quite place it. And Jason still laughed, still made snide comments in class, still ruled the cafeteria like it was his kingdom. But when he bumped into Nico in the hallway and tried one of his old tricks, knocking the books from Nico's hand, something strange happened. Nico didn't flinch. He just stared. 1, 2, 3 full seconds of silence. And in that silence, Jason did something he'd never done before. He looked away first. No words were exchanged, no threats, no insults. But in that one glance, something shifted. Jason didn't know it yet, but his reign had already begun to crumble. Nico didn't seek revenge that day. He didn't need to. He just waited and watched, because he knew. Sooner or later, the perfect moment would come. And when it did, it wouldn't just be personal, it would be poetic. It happened during gym class. They were running drills, basketball scrimmages, push-ups, sprints. The kind of day where the coach barely paid attention and the bullies thrived. Jason and Troy were in rare form, shoving people around, cracking jokes, showing off for the crowd. Nico kept to the back, stretching, eyes down, watching, waiting. Then it happened. Troy slammed a ball into Nico's chest so hard it knocked the wind out of him. "Oops," Troy said, smirking. "Didn't see you there, ninja." Jason joined in, laughing. "You still doing interpretive dance, bro? Want me to cue the music?" The class chuckled, but Nico didn't move, didn't speak. He just slowly placed the ball on the ground and stood up. He walked straight toward Jason. Not fast, not slow, just steady. Jason's grin faded. "What's your problem, freak?" Nico stopped inches from him. Then in one blur of motion, he moved. A clean, sharp jab to the chest. Jason stumbled back, coughing, stunned. Everyone froze. Troy charged. Nico sidestepped, swept his leg, and brought him crashing down in one smooth, terrifying movement. 2 years of rage, 2 years of humiliation, 2 years of training. It all poured out. But here's the thing. He didn't beat them senseless. He didn't lose control. He chose control, because the true beast isn't the one who lashes out blindly, it's the one who holds back and still wins. By the time the coach turned around, Jason and Troy were on the floor, stunned, breathless, broken, not just physically but publicly. Silence flooded the gym. No one laughed. No one dared. Nico stood over them, breathing steady, eyes calm. Then he turned and walked out. No cheers, no applause, just the weight of every eye finally seeing him for the first time, and not as a joke, as something else entirely, something to respect, something to fear. The story spread like wildfire. By lunch, everyone in the school knew what had happened in the gym. Every phone buzzed with blurry videos. Every whisper in the hallway echoed the same name, Nico. But it wasn't laughter this time. It was awe, caution, respect. Even the teachers looked at him differently. The principal called him into the office, expecting trouble. But after reviewing the footage and talking to the coach, all she said was, "Next time, walk away." He didn't respond. He didn't have to. Because everyone knew there wouldn't be a next time. Jason and Troy didn't come to school the next day, or the day after. Rumor had it, their parents were furious, embarrassed, maybe even transferred them. But Nico, he kept showing up. Same seat, same quiet stare, same hoodie. But now, the silence around him had shifted. It wasn't empty anymore. It was earned. People stopped blocking his locker. Some even nodded at him in the halls. A few, timid and unsure, sat near him during lunch. Not to mock, but to simply be near something they didn't quite understand. He never became popular. He didn't want to. But now, when someone bumped into him, they said, "Sorry." When he walked into a room, people made space. The bullies had vanished, and with them, the fear. But Nico didn't become arrogant. He didn't flex his strength. He had nothing to prove, because true power doesn't need to shout. It just needs to exist and be seen. The seasons changed, leaves fell, snow came, and still, Nico kept moving forward. He kept training, not out of revenge anymore, but discipline, purpose. He wasn't chasing a fight, he was building a future. Ray, the old boxer, had started introducing him to real sparring, local competitions. Late nights at the gym turned into weekends at small matches. Nico didn't win every time, but he never backed down. At school, things finally settled. He wasn't invisible anymore, but he wasn't a spectacle either. He was something rarer, respected. Even the teachers who once overlooked him began to engage. One invited him to submit an essay to a citywide writing contest. Another asked him to mentor a younger student being bullied, a quiet kid who reminded Nico of himself. He accepted, because now he understood. Strength isn't just about fists or fear. It's about knowing you could destroy someone and choosing not to. It's about standing up when no one else will. And sometimes it's about becoming the person you once wished would come save you. Nico didn't talk much. He still wore his hoodie, still sat in the back. But people looked at him now, not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. He wasn't just the quiet kid anymore. He was the storm no one saw coming, the proof that even the smallest shadow can carry the loudest thunder. And he never had to say a word. They thought he was weak, a nobody, a ghost. But what they didn't understand, what they never even tried to see, was that inside him lived a fighter, a survivor, a beast. And when the time came, he didn't just fight back, he transformed. So if you ever feel overlooked, underestimated, humiliated, remember, silence doesn't mean weakness. It might just mean you're preparing for your moment, and when it comes, the world will have no choice but to listen. What do you think of this story? Have you ever been underestimated and proved everyone wrong? Tell us in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder of their inner strength.